All right, internet, you know what's up. My name's JB. Welcome to the Hot Take Hour. We are going to be ranking Pokemon Unite characters post DELPHOX release. Should be a fun time. We live for hot takes, and it should be pretty damn interesting to see where the new Pokemon lands on a tier list. So if you're new around here, be sure to like, subscribe, do all that sort of nonsense. Very, very close to 450 subscribers, and I would absolutely love to hit that number. So if you enjoy the content, if you enjoy the nonsense, please be sure to hit subscribe. And one more thing before we get into this, if you're new around here, how I typically use the D tiers for not necessarily the worst Pokemon in the game, but the Pokemon I think are in most need of a buff or in some sort of a change, not necessarily the worst tier. Because I really don't think there are any particularly unplayably bad Pokemon in the game. I think there are some Pokemon that need more help than others. So that's what we use the D tier for. So don't get all out of whack when I put some Pokemon that you might consider better than most or better than some in the D tier. That's not what we use the D tier for here. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop on in. We're gonna make you guys wait for the DELPHOX because that's just what I like to do. Let's start off with some speedsters. Gengar. I think it's the definition of a B tier Pokemon. I think it's pretty okay. In the right hands, it can absolutely dominate a game, but it's just a little bit, you know, squishy. And if you don't know what you're doing on Gengar, you could really get caught out and just completely taken out of a fight and taken out of a game if you're not careful. Like, it's a Pokemon that could snowball really, really well, but if you're not able to really do that, it's a little bit rough. Absol, I think, is a little bit better than Gengar. I think they're both fine. Both B tier Pokemon, by the way. We have our Silly Goose tier, which is our S tier, absolutely astonishing tier. We have our Thanos tier, which is perfectly balanced as all things should be, which is our B tier. We have our Circumlocution tier. I literally just googled big words that start with C, and I found the first one that I thought was kind of funny, and it's totally not because I was commented, because I'm a child. But yeah, it's just the C tier. I don't know, it was a big word that started with C. I thought it was funny. And then we have our D for our don't tier. Okay, sorry. Anyway, Absol, really high burst damage, better without all the buddy barriers and score shields in the game, but it still does struggle a little bit late game, and it is extremely squishy. Both of these Pokemon are pretty much definitions of glass cannons. Talonflame, I think, is a step above those two. It's just really easy to play and has just incredibly high burst damage, and yeah, it's still really solid. Great jungler. Okay, not great in lane. I really wouldn't ever play Talonflame in lane, but it's okay. Absol, pretty decent laner. Talonflame, not so much. Gengar, don't play it in lane. I don't really know what that was all about, but I mean, Talonflame, yeah, really high burst damage, really high mobility, decent all-around Pokemon. I think it's just, you know, a little bit better than these two late game, so give it that edge. Also, it gets its Unite move forever. All right, Zeraora. Here's my hot take. A lot of people will be putting Zeraora down here. You're wrong. Zeraora is really damn good. The only problem with Zeraora is it levels up late, and I will admit, this is a take I've had for a while, so if you're new here, or if you're not new here, if you've heard me talk about this before, I apologize, but I talk about this in all my tier list videos. Listen, I give you that it needs to have its level up moves lowered and its Unite move lowered and its plus moves lowered. I give you that. Give it the rest of the curve. But Wild Charge is one of the absolute most broken moves in this game. There we go. That's my Zeraora take. All right, moving on to let's go ahead and do supporters next. Hoopa, it's still S tier. Yeah, they reined in the damage a little bit on its Unite move, which was needed, but its Unite move is still just so game changing. Yeah, it's a little bit rough in solo queue, but even have, you know, in a trio queue, any teammate showing up is still just super, super valuable. And more often than not, I will say people are starting to come around to taking your Hoopa holes in a solo queue and, you know, showing up. So that's a good thing. It's such a game-changing Unite move that even though the rest of his kit is okay at best, Hole is still incredible at healing you really back to full. Like, Hyperspace Hole is the best healing move in the game because you can heal back to full and just jump back into the fight. Like, Hoopa is just completely game-changing. Like, if there was a tier above S tier, Hoopa would be in it, along with, you know, maybe another Pokemon or so. But yeah, you know what, honestly, we really just should just do, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna add a row above. We're gonna add the I think Spraggles did this too, but it's needed at this point. Hoopa is just, it's literally in a tier of its own. It's Hoopa. It's ridiculous how strong this Pokemon is and how just game-changing it is. So yeah, Hoopa, it's just the best. All right, we're doing supporters. Blissey. Nope, Mr. Mime, I found you first. Listen, again, I told you guys in the beginning, D tier isn't necessarily for the Pokemon that are the worst in the game. Mr. Mime is pretty decent right now. It's okay. It is just so very close to being up here. Like, Mr. Mime is one buff away from being unbelievably good. So the problem with Mr. Mime is, first off, Psychic is still one of the absolute most useless moves in the game. The barrier build, is what it is. It's okay. Confusion is still a really good stun. The thing with Mr. Mime is guard swap. Guard Swap Plus is one of the best attacks in the game when you get it, but the problem is you don't get it till 13, and it's really hard to get Mr. Mime to level 13. I'm thinking all you have to do to make Mr. Mime an A or a B tier Pokemon is give it Guard Swap Plus at level 11. That is so game changing, because usually if you get level 13, you're getting it right up that fight, so you barely get to use it. You get, you know, level 11 maybe at the 4-minute mark, and you get, you know, a couple more minutes with it. You heal so freaking much. And I have a feeling if they did give it this change, they might need to nerf it a little bit, but oh well. Like, it's, man, Guard Swap Plus is incredible. It's really close to being one of the best Pokemon in the game, I think, but it's not quite there yet, and I think it just needs a little bit of love, so that's why we put it in the don't tier. Maybe I should rename the don't tier, but it's funny, and I'm just gonna keep it. Eldegoss. Eldegoss is in maybe the worst place it's ever been in the game, but I think it's still a pretty okay Pokemon. Like, as a supporter, it's just completely outclassed by this egg thing we'll get to in a little bit. But it's still very usable. Like, it does, you know, grant a lot of shields. Leaf Tornado is really good for mobility. It has an okay Unite move. It's just, as a supporter, as a pure supporter, Blissey just does its job better with shields and healing. So Eldegoss is still really good. It's just, the problem is Blissey is S tier. Blissey's incredible. Best healer in the game easily. Safeguard is such a good move. Helping Hand is such a good move. Egg Bomb stuns are ridiculous. So yeah, Blissey is just on another level right now. It honestly is really close to being in the Hoopa tier. That's how good Blissey is at the moment. So yeah, very good Pokemon. It's just, you know, slightly Eldegoss is still good as well. It's just Blissey completely outshines it, and it's not Eldegoss's fault. It's just the power creep of the game. Now, one thing again worth noting before we move on, I'm not ranking like Eldegoss against the speedsters. I'm making Eldegoss as a B tier support. I'm not really ranking him, you know, against each other, like in cross rolls, except for in instances. There are like a couple specific things I'll talk about a little bit later, but yeah, for the most part, I'm not ranking like speedsters against supporters within the tier. Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff is, again, I think in the maybe the worst place it's been in, but Wigglytuff can still kind of control a game. There are just a ton of problems with playing Wigglytuff right now, and a lot of them are Blissey. Like, Blissey just completely counters Wigglytuff if it's running Safeguard. Like, if you see a Wigglytuff on your team and you're playing Blissey, just play Safeguard, and the Wigglytuff's useless because the rollout's not exactly good. But specifically, I'm talking about in solo duo queue, Wigglytuff is still really good and incredibly disruptive. Cute Charm is still one of the most broken abilities in the game. Sing is still really solid. Good enough Unite move is a little bit worse after the Buddy Barrier nerf, but it's still very usable. Like I said, basically just between Sing and Cute Charm, this thing can still completely disrupt an uncoordinated team. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it that respect and leave it in A tier, although it is probably, in all honesty, closer to B tier. You know what, we're gonna put it at the very top of B tier, because I do think it's still a really good Pokemon. It's just not as good as it used to be. It used to be, you know, up here. It used to be really good, but just based on, you know, Blissey and other Pokemon being able to just counter Sing basically with cleanses and whatnot, it's just not as good as it used to be. All right, let's go ahead and do all-arounders next, because should be able to get through them pretty fast. Lucario, they didn't nerf the scaling, so it's still broken. Moving on. Completely overpowered. All right, we have Machamp. Machamp is very close to A tier or S tier. It's always going to be really close to Lucario. It's just the problem with Machamp, and why it's not as good as Lucario, is that sometimes you do get gatekept on experience. Usually in 5 stacks it doesn't happen, because, you know, you're just swapping out you know, experience, or swapping out stacks, and you're usually just trading a lot. You're able to get your experience and not really have to worry about it. But in solo queue and other, you know, less coordinated gameplay, it's just not, you know, sometimes you do get gatekept, and it's not Lucario in that meta. You don't have to worry about evolving, and yeah, Lucario is just privileged. Let's just leave it at that. Okay, let's go ahead and do our friendly neighborhood Garchomp. I love Garchomp. It's one of my favorite characters to play. It's a B tier Pokemon. I think in the right hands, like if you know what you're doing on Garchomp, it can be really good. If you're bad at Garchomp, or if you're, you know, in a bad matchup with Garchomp, like it's rough. Like, it has, you know, really strong auto attacks. Obviously, it has maybe the best auto attacks in the game outside of Cinderace. Dragon Rush, Dragon Build is really cool for being able to reposition enemies and just get them out of position, pulling them off of their zone so they can't heal. Like, it's really fun. It's a really cool playstyle. It's something you have to get really good with. It's kind of like Gengar, where if you can get ahead, if you can get snowballed, like Garchomp can win a lot of games, but it's honestly a really hard Pokemon to do well with. But I think in the right hands, it's still a pretty solid Pokemon in the B tier. Okay, Charizard. I'm gonna put it in A tier, but for a completely different reason than Machamp. Machamp is this solo top, you know, laner. Charizard is an A tier jungler. Charizard is really bad in lane. Like, I don't think you should really ever play this Pokemon in lane. It's just the problem with Charizard is there are so many other really good junglers that oftentimes, especially in solo queue, you can't really get it. But if you are able to jungle with Charizard, you can put in a ton of work. Has still one of the best Unite moves in the game. All of its attacks are at least usable. Fire Punch, maybe not. Flare Blitz is actually pretty damn good. The shield you get from it is really nice. But Fire Blast, Flamethrower, phenomenal. Unite move, phenomenal. Charizard, still in a really good place. It's just there are junglers that do its job better. And just better junglers in general. All right, Azumarill. We have an Azumarill video coming out tomorrow as you guys are watching this. I think Azumarill, I think it's comfortably B tier. I don't think the buffs to it were too huge. Like it's a really nice buff, don't get me wrong. Like just the general stat increase, and I believe Play Rough and Aquatail both got buffed as well, which is cool. Like, you know, it's nice little quality of life buffs to it. But the problem is it still has the gimmick of, you know, only having its ability be active in one-on-one fights, and you are so rarely in those. If you're able to really play an assassin-y type build with Azumarill and, you know, get away with it, then yeah, cool, you can do a lot of damage. But against a coordinated team, against people who see an Azumarill coming, you're really not gonna be able to do a ton, especially compared to the other all-rounders. Well, I think it's in a better place. It's still not in a great place, so we'll go ahead and leave it in the old B tier. Okay, now Dragonite, I think it's really good right now. I think the attack buff to it was nice. I think it's just a step below Charizard, and it's more of a jungler than a laner. Well, okay, so with all-arounders, you have Charizard and Dragonite, who are more laners, and Aegislash to a lesser extent. The rest of them are mostly top laners, so Dragonite, as a jungler, is still really solid. I think it's just a step below Charizard because, well, Charizard's Unite move is just that effing good. Hyper Beam secures are back to some extent, so that's really fun. It's just the problem, there's way more CC and crowd control in the game and way more stuff to just disrupt your Hyper Beam. And Hyper Beam's targeting is super weird. I had like 2 instances the other night on stream where I would, you know, be aiming my Hyper Beam at Zapdos in Zapdos fight, and people, like one instance was a Talonflame just jumping in. I go to use my Hyper Beam, it's locked onto the Zapdos, Talonflame lands and it targets the Talonflame. So there's something going on that's weird with Dragonite Hyper Beam, where it doesn't exactly, it gets its targeting messed up a lot. So yeah, it's I don't know if it's a bug or if I just got unlucky a couple times, but yeah, it's still solid. Its auto attacks are phenomenal, and Dragon Dance is still really good. But yeah, if you're able to actually land your Hyper Beams properly, Hyper Beam secures are back in a big way. All right, moving on to Serena. I think Serena is unbelievable right now. I think I've been asked a few times on stream, you know, what's a good Pokemon for solo queue? I think Serena is one of the best options for solo queue right now because it just absolutely obliterates squishies. You can get away with playing it really in any path. I think it's best in top path. You can obviously get away with it in jungle as well. But yeah, it's, oh man, Stomp is just so unbelievably good against squishies. It has such high sustain. And if you're able to get your stacks in or slap a weakness policy on this Pokemon, it can just absolutely carry a lot of fights. So Serena is in an amazing place right now. I really like it. Try it out if you haven't. And then Aegislash, very similarly, it's a little bit of a hybrid between a laner and a jungler. I think it's probably a little bit better in the jungle, but Aegislash is one of the hardest Pokemon to master in this game, or even get good with in this game, honestly. It's just a little bit difficult to learn how to juggle the stacks and when to go into shield form and when to go into blade form. But if you are able to get down the, you know, just the ebb and flow of using your wide guard and your sacred sword, I really wouldn't mess with Shadow Claw or Iron Head. This, if you're playing Shadow Claw, Iron Head, I'd honestly move this Pokemon closer to C tier. But wide guard and sacred sword have such high potential if you're able to figure out how to build your stacks and how to, you know, just dash through enemies. Like if you're able to learn how to properly play Aegislash, it has some of the highest carry potential in the game. So Aegislash in a great place right now, I believe, as well. So let's go ahead and move on to our defenders. First off, we got Snorlax. I'm gonna put Snorlax, I don't want to put it in the don't tier because I don't know how you actually buff this Pokemon, because this kit is still really good. I'm gonna put it in the C tier. Snorlax might actually be in the worst place it's ever been in the game. Snorlax might actually be one of the worst Pokemon in the game right now. And that feels really weird to say as a Pokemon that completely dominated a lot of the early meta of this game. It's just in a really rough spot at the moment. It's just, man, so much range, so much crowd control in the game right now. Snorlax just really struggles against a lot of that stuff. A lot of, you know, like a lot of stuff that Hoopa and Blissey do, just there's not a whole lot Snorlax can do against it. There are still some moments where you're playing against teams that, you know, are less coordinated, where block can still completely disrupt the game, where Heavy Slam can still do stuff. But Flail Yawn is still a meme build. Like, it's okay, yeah, cool. If you're putting up big damage with it, good job. But you know, you can play that exact same play style and be playing Serena or Machamp. Like, it's whatever. Like, cool. Like, it's fine. It's just a meme build. It has a terrible Unite move. Snorlax is just in a weird spot where I don't know how you buff this Pokemon without making it ridiculous, but I don't know how you make it better without nerfing literally every other Pokemon in the game. That's just my opinion. That's my 2 cents on it. I could be completely misspeaking, but it is what it is. Okay, Crustal. Crustal, I'm going to put it in the C tier as well, but for a different reason. I just think there's another defender that does everything this Pokemon does, but better. And that Pokemon is great. It's cool that it got its crits back on Stealth Rock. It's nice that it got the cooldown reduction on the X Scissor. But the main thing Crustal was really, really good at was scoring, and they got rid of that when they nerfed the Score Shield Buddy Barrier not being able to stack anymore, which was, you know, in hindsight, probably a pretty good change for the game. But it makes Crustal a lot less effective, especially in solo queue. You're still really good at, you know, just running around, stealing farm and stuff like that. So you can still do a lot of stuff with Crustal, but you just can't do what you used to as well, and you can't really do that playstyle better than Greedent can. So yeah, it's a little bit rough at the moment. Blastoise. Okay, so Blastoise got hit with maybe the biggest nerfs last patch, but I still think Blastoise is a pretty good Pokemon. I'm gonna leave it in A tier. Surf Hydro Pump is still a really good build for crowd control, and its Unite move is still decent. And on top of all of that, Water Spout Rapid Spin is still extremely playable and does really solid damage. So I don't think Blastoise, you know, obviously it was teetering close to the Hoopa tier at one point in the previous patches, but nowadays I think it's, you know, it's alright. It's nothing special, but it's still a really solid, really good choice for a defender. More of an offensive defender than anything, but with the Hydro Pump Surf build, you can still get away with, you know, playing your classic tank build if you want to. Speaking of classic tank builds, I think Slowbro is still in a phenomenal spot. The Scald build did nothing but help this Pokemon, makes it a little bit better in solo queue. Amnesia is still ridiculous. Really good Unite move. You can get your teammates to pay attention to it. I don't really have a bad thing to say about Slowbro. It's been good. It's still good. There you go. Okay, we got ourselves Mamoswine next. I'm gonna put Mamo in the B tier. I think it's just a step ahead of what Snorlax can do. It's close to being in this, having the same sort of problems as Snorlax. I just think the freezes that Mamoswine provides ultimately make it a better Pokemon to me. So that's really all it is. It has the worst Unite move in the game, but you can actually put out a decent bit of damage. And if you are able to freeze people and provide a little bit more crowd control than what Snorlax can do, I think, you know, just that alone puts it slightly above. Greedent, I'm gonna put in the A tier. It is the most annoying Pokemon in the game. I can't really figure out how to play Covet Belch, but I'm not going to deny it's an incredible build. And yeah, I hate Squirrel. It's an A tier Pokemon, borderline S tier. It's Greedent, dude. It's Greedent. Okay. Revenant might be my favorite defender to play. I'm not sure where I want to put it though. I'm really not sure where I want to put it. Because part of me wants to put it A tier, but part of me is thinking it's not as good of being a defender as Slowbro, or yeah. Actually, first off, let me rearrange this to, you know, more like that. I think honestly, I'm gonna put Tree in B tier. That's being a little bit conservative. I love Tree. I just don't think it, you know, just based on sustain alone, it's really good. I just don't think it provides enough to its teammates to warrant being on the same tier as Slowbro or even Blastoise, and it's a completely different playstyle than Greedent. So we're gonna put it in B tier. I think it's just a little bit better. It's a better Mamoswine basically. Yeah, the Pokemon above it being ranged, like specifically Slowbro and Blastoise being ranged, you know, make them a step above Trevenant in my mind, because playing at range is just such an advantage in a game like Unite, which is a little bit weird, but it's true. Okay, moving on to our attackers. We can kind of breeze through some of these. Let's go ahead and get the obvious ones out of the way. Cinderace, S tier, broken. If you think it's anywhere other than S, you're wrong. To be quite frank, it has the highest damage output in the game with its auto attacks. Need I say more? Its auto attacks are completely broken. All right, and they buffed its builds. They buffed Pyro Ball. They buffed Feint. The nerf to Blaze Kick wasn't really a nerf because you didn't use Blaze Kick for damage. Cinderace is broken. Greninja is still really solid. Gonna leave it in S tier as well. Surf still deletes things, so you just have to land a couple more shurikens or another, you know, dash Unite or dash attack. It's still really solid, still very good. Water Shuriken is still playable. So yeah, Greninja is still very, very good. Two great builds. Okay. Excuse me. My mouth is not working because I need to take a drink of water, and I don't have water with me because I didn't think about that before I hit record. Okay, let's go ahead and do Decidueye next, get the ADCs out of the way. I think Decidueye is A tier. It's definitely a step below Cinderace and Greninja, but it's a step above them in terms of fun, in my opinion, because it's not as brainless as the other two. You have to have at least a little bit of skill to play Decidueye. You have to learn how to play at range, and you know, when I say play at range, I mean play at significant range. Like, yeah, you're playing at range with Cinderace and Greninja, but you have to play at further range with Decidueye, because you know, if you get too close to Decidueye, you're just dead. So that inherently, you know, just raises the skill ceiling on a Pokemon like this. But you know, Spirit Shackle is probably the most fun move in the game. I don't think I really do believe that. I think Spirit Shackle is just incredibly fun. Still great for steals, and its Unite move is in a really good place as well. Once you learn how to use that, your golden Decidueye is one of the best solo carries in the game, in my opinion. Although I would not play any of these Pokemon in lane. Speaking of playing in lane, Venusaur is maybe the best laner in the game right now. They buffed Solar Beam. It didn't need it. It's still really good. Petal Dance Giga Drain is still undefeated as one of, if not the best overall build in the game. So yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal. Venusaur is fan-frickin-tastic. All right, moving on to Gardevoir. I'm gonna go ahead and put Gardevoir in the S tier as well. I think Gardevoir might be the best jungler in the game right now. Maybe outside of Cinderace, but they're just completely different playstyles. Gardevoir is just so disgustingly good. Like, level 5 Curlia coming out of jungle is so freaking terrifying. You have no idea. Like, dude, being able to just land massive future sights. Future sight at level 5 can two-shot pretty much everything in the game, especially if you're ahead, if you're playing in jungle. Like, bro, it is so scary. Not to mention they buffed Psyshock, they buffed this early game, and it evolves a level earlier. Gardevoir is in a phenomenal spot right now, in my opinion. Moving on to Cramorant. I had it in D tier in my last tier list, and that was kind of, you know, unnecessary. But man, I don't think it's like, there are people putting Cramorant in B tier. I just don't get that. I think there are just better long range mages in the game that do this sort of play style better. People are vouching for Air Slash being good and Dive being good. What the hell are we playing? Are we playing the same video game? Dive Air Slash is bad. Hurricane Surf is the only decent build on this Pokemon, in my opinion. And even then, like, it's only okay. It can absolutely delete squishies if you land it. And its Unite move is in an okay, not good place, but it's in an okay place. It's still really, really bad. But it's sort of like the Decidueye Knight. If you're able to, you know, launch it and, you know, get it off before they realize you're there, then yeah, you can do a lot of damage with it. But Crab, it still needs help. It still has a ways to go. We're gonna put it in the C tier. Pikachu. I'm gonna put Pikachu. Man, Pikachu's been an A tier Pokemon for so long. I don't want to put it in B tier because it just feels dishonest. But man, you know what? I'm gonna put it in A tier simply because of its Unite move and the stuns. Pikachu's just weird, man. It's good, but it's just not as good as it's been. I don't know. It's just sort of power creep, man. It's just the game getting more, you know, centralized on things being fatter and, you know, more bulk, and Pikachu is the opposite of bulk. All right, moving on to our B tier, hopefully. Yeah, well, spoiled it. I meant to say moving on to Ninetales. Gonna put it in the B tier. I think it's still really good. I think the Blizzard Avalanche build is back. I think the Aurora build is still in a good place. The Unite move is still okay. I just think there are better mages. Speaking of better mages, let's go ahead and get Sylveon out of the way. I think it's I don't know why I did that and then put it in the same tier. Listen, man, I'm just trying to segue, okay? Leave me alone. I think it's fine. I think the split jungle stuff is cute. I don't think it's necessarily real. I think Hyper Voice is very strong. I think Mystical Fire is a meme. Draining Kiss and Calm Mind are both playable. I've been playing alone with Draining Kiss a little bit more, and it's usable. I don't think it's as good, but it's definitely a viable you know, attack if you want to run it. I don't think it's better than Calm Mind, but it's all right. Terrible Unite move. Just sort of meh. It's the definition of meh. I think it's better. It's weird because it's probably better in solo queue, but it's seeing more play in 5-mans because of the weird, you know, fun, gimmicky split jungle things you can do with it. But at the end of the day, I just think other junglers are stronger. So that's the reason I'm gonna leave it in B tier. Just splitting the difference there. Same thing with Espeon. I think Espeon's in a fine place. Like, Psyshock's good, AC Down move's good. That's literally the only two things in his kit that are good. Don't sit here and tell me Future Sight is good. Don't sit here and tell me Stored Power is good. Like, Future Sight's only okay. Psybeam's slightly better. Stored Power is straight up bad. Like, yeah, it stuns a lot. Its auto attacks are okay. Like, it's the definition of it's an okay Pokemon. All right, speaking of an okay Pokemon, but for a different reason, we have Doraleon. I'm gonna leave it in the B tier as well. You know, Dragon Pulse secures are still okay. Like, its Unite move's good. Need we say more? Flash Cannon isn't good, but I'm seeing it played more. I wish I wasn't seeing it played more because I don't think it's very good. But you know, if you want to run Flash Cannon, be my guest. It's fine, but Dragon Pulse is just better in every way, in my opinion. All right, now the reason you are all here, DELPHOX. Okay, I'm putting it in the A tier. I think it's the second best mage in the game behind Gardevoir at the moment. I think it's really, really fun, and I don't think I've had more fun with a release than I've had with DELPHOX. The thing with DELPHOX that people are talking about the most, maybe besides its Unite move is a close second, is Fire Spin, obviously. I've been hearing so many people tell me that Fire Spin is overpowered and broken, and I could not disagree more. I don't think it's broken. I don't think it's overpowered. I think it's really, really good, and I think that's a good thing. I think there are far more egregious stuns in the game. Far more. First and foremost, let's go ahead and name a couple. Egg Bomb, way more annoying than Fire Spin. Gardevoir Psychic, way more annoying than Fire Spin. Gardevoir Moonblast, way more annoying than Fire Spin. Pikachu, more annoying than Fire Spin. Ninetales, more annoying than Fire Spin. That's just me. I get it. Fire Spin's really, really, really good. It's not overpowered. That's my take. The thing about DELPHOX that I think is close to overpowered is its Unite move. I literally charge Unite moves in 30 seconds with this Pokemon, but I think that's the thing that needs the biggest nerf on DELPHOX is Unite move charge. I believe it has the fastest Unite move charge in the game, even over Pikachu, which is ridiculous. So I think that's the only really, truly broken part of DELPHOX's kit. Mystical Fire and Fire Blast are both very viable. I haven't really messed around with Flame Charge too much because Fire Spin is Fire Spin, and it is very, 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 very good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Fire Spin's bad. I just think there are more egregious stunts in the game, and I don't think that's really arguable, but people will tell you different because it's a new shiny toy. Give it a week and people will not be this mad about Fire Spin, I promise you. But I think the main thing that needs to be tweaked about DELPHOX is the Unite move. That's the only real thing that I have a problem with. And even then, I just think it's honestly not that big of a tweak. Just put it more in line with maybe something like Azumarill, or was another super, not crazy, like Mr. Mime Unite move charge is pretty fast, but it's not like ridiculously fast. Charizard, you know, put it more in line with Pokemon like that, and we'd be looking fine. I really, really enjoy its Unite move for pushing second tier goals because it actually makes that strategy viable. Especially it makes Rotom even slightly more viable, and that's a good thing because I think Rotom is the most useless thing in the game, but that's a topic for a different video. So DELPHOX, I think it is a very good Pokemon. Tweak its Unite move a little bit, and we might be talking the most balanced Pokemon in the game in a good way. I think DELPHOX is so fun. It's the most fun I've had over the release, maybe ever in Pokemon Unite. I'm really enjoying it. So those are my takes for the post DELPHOX release tier list in Pokemon Unite. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Yell at me for over or underrating your favorite Pokemon, and a reminder that Mr. Mime is not the worst Pokemon in the game. I just would really, really would love to see a couple tweaks to it that I think would make it a very good Pokemon. So that's what we use the D tier for here. If you guys enjoyed, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.